And for more on this, we're now being joined live by Professor Scott Lucas. He's a professor of international politics at the University College Dublin. Thank you so much, Professor Lucas, for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you.
So let me start off by saying that now the Alaska summit between President Trump and Vladimir Putin will be their first meeting since 2019. And contrary to initial plans, we understand that President Zelensky will not be a part of it. At least nothing officially has been confirmed to suggest otherwise so far. Now, given that Ukraine is at the heart of the conflict and the subsequent absence, how do you assess the situation?
Well, first of all, Zelensky will not be in Alaska. There was one U.S. official who said he might go out there. He would be there after Trump and Putin's meeting. But the only way that Russia would agree to that is if effectively the Americans would give Zelensky an ultimatum, accept our terms. Now, Zelensky's not going to accept those terms. So the White House very quickly said, no, this story is not true. What then is the fundamental of what is happening in Alaska on Friday? The Kremlin's immediate objective was to get Donald Trump back on their side. They have been on the defensive in recent weeks because they keep attacking Ukraine civilians with these deadly missile and drone strikes. Trump had gotten upset and he was threatening, and the deadline was supposedly on last Friday that there would be sanctions on Russia and on its trading partners, including India and China. Now you'll notice that Donald Trump has quietly dropped that. So the Kremlin had pushed back on that. Now what they're trying to do is to get Trump to accept their ultimata to Ukraine. And we must be clear, these are not negotiations. What the Kremlin is saying is, you give up more than 20% of your territory, and then we might stop attacking you. You have identified that includes all of 2 regions in the east, Donetsk and Luhansk. Even though Russia does not control part of those regions, it includes parts of 2 regions in the south, and it includes Crimea. So, the Kremlin will make these demands. What we have to see is whether Donald Trump flips again and says, yes, Ukraine must surrender, or whether Ukraine and Europe, who met yesterday in the UK, will successfully put forth this counter proposal, which says, first and foremost, there must be a ceasefire with no conditions, and then we'll discuss the terms to end the Russian invasion.
Absolutely, Professor Lucas. And just to probe that further, we know that President Trump has floated the idea of territory swap. Now, swapping implies a give and take. But while we know that what Russia stands to gain and what Ukraine stands to lose, what could Ukraine possibly gain beyond the ceasefire? And if a ceasefire comes at the cost of conceding land, which Zelensky has very categorically said that he won't consider, what could that mean for Ukraine's long-term security and even sovereignty?
There is no swap of land. Donald Trump doesn't know the details of what is happening here, so he just put out this statement that land would be swapped. Ukraine has a very small portion of the Kursk region on the border with Russia, but Russia's not going to give that up or any other territory. So let's push that aside. The only way that Ukraine may accept a short-term Russian occupation of its territory, because you can't force the Russians out, at least in the near future. But in return, what Ukraine is going to say is 2 things. First of all, this is not a legal recognition that this territory is being given to Russia. This is just simply accepting the situation as it is. And secondly, while accepting that short-term Russian occupation, Ukraine will get the support of Europe and other countries for its military and its economic future. That includes this path to the European Union. It does not include NATO membership, but it includes an association with NATO countries. In other words, we will have a situation which is similar to that of West Germany and East Germany during the Cold War, when Germany had to give up part of its territory to the Soviet sphere, but in return, West Germany joined what is now the European Union, joined NATO, and became much stronger than the Soviet-controlled territory in the East.
Absolutely. And Professor Lucas, we know that Trump has framed himself as the only man who can move Putin's pieces off the board. And yet every move so far, from be it penalty tariffs or ultimatums, he has been met with the same response from Putin, which is clear defiance. Now, does this meeting signal a recalibration of the maximum pressure tactic, or is it simply another round in a game where Putin is setting the tempo?
It's simply Russia trying to play a very puffed up man who happens to be a narcissist, and I have to be honest with you. Donald Trump likes to go around the world saying, I'm the peacemaker. He says, I've solved 5 wars, including one supposedly between India and Pakistan this spring. He just wants the photo opportunities. Now, Russia knows that. This is the last card they could play with Trump, though. They didn't want to play it. They wanted to just keep talking to him on the phone, keep him on side that way. But because they were under so much pressure with Trump threatening to increase sanctions, now they play the card, which is you get your photo alongside Vladimir Putin, a man you have long admired. You get the headlines. You get to claim you're a peacemaker. Then they hope to get Trump on side with that. But here's the problem for Russia. If they keep attacking Ukraine civilians night after night after night, and they did so again overnight, they will lose Trump again, because his advisors, who don't want to be alongside the Kremlin, and his wife, Melania Trump, will say that Vladimir Putin keeps killing people, and you are not going to get your Nobel Peace Prize.
Absolutely right. And I don't think Putin or Trump can afford to lose that, because Russia seems to be that final piece, if set right, could take Trump one step closer to his Nobel Peace Prize, which has come up plenty of times in the last weeks. But for now, we'll have to see, and we'll have to see how the Alaska summit goes and if at all we're able to get a breakthrough. But for now, thank you so much, Professor Lucas, for joining us on the broadcast and sharing your insights with us.
Thanks to you and your viewers.